everyone, I'm Hsing-ay and welcome to a Path Forward interview with Geoff Collinson, founder of Aeyons, an online global music lesson website, and much, much more. Joining us today from Melbourne, Australia, welcome, Geoff.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I am so excited, Geoff, to share the news that I have joined the Aeyons faculty online, and it was such a great pleasure meeting you and just getting to hear what is going on behind the scenes with Aeyons. So let's start off with a question, Geoff. Why should everyone go book a music lesson right now?
That's an excellent question. Look, we all know, the value of music education, particularly instrumental education in general, and its reflective nature in general education, really. What difference music makes to everybody's lives on every level, at the same time of making a difference for musicians. At the moment, musicians around the world are really going through hard times, and so we're encouraging everybody to join in with Aeyons and really make a difference both to your own life and to the lives of musicians as well.
Yeah, and with all our collective anxiety going on worldwide right now, I feel like for me, learning is such a great mood booster. It just takes me out of the current stagnation, and it's just this magic like a healing drug, and it just lets me grow.
It's learning. The big aim, I guess, for me behind this is the value of learning a musical instrument and being taught well by a wonderful teacher like yourself is that you learn how to learn. And so there's the inspiration of what you're doing as solving problems and moving forward and feeling some sort of, as you said, there's a lot of stagnation going on. So feeling some sort of activity and growth in your life is a really important thing in these times.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting that like out of this time of uncertainty, it brings people like you and I together, like around the world. I am sitting in New York and you're sitting in Australia, and somehow we found the right hour of day to meet online and share hope. And I just want everyone to know about the great new opportunities that are coming our way with innovations like what you're doing in Australia. And we can benefit from that. And you and I have a lot of things in common. We're musicians, and then we've also been in academia. I just moved back to New York from teaching in Colorado for 15 years at the university there. And all our performing has suddenly come to a halt, and it's forced me to go online to see all the other things that are going on. Now, how did the pandemic catch you and your family a few months ago? What was it like in Australia?
Well, we had a very intense lockdown, basically from early March, with one small window in the middle. We were in complete lockdown for that entire time, with orchestras still here are shut down. They're just starting to get some smaller things happening, and my wife, who's a cellist here in the Flinders Quartet in Australia, is just starting rehearsals, and concerts are starting to wind up. But it had a massive impact on the industry, and even as a family here, because Zoe lost everything. The quartet couldn't play, and she's obviously been teaching using Aeyons during that particular during that time. And we've had fabulous reports from back here from Australian musicians, expressing what a difference it's made in their lives just to be able to interact and work at this high level during the time.
That's great. And I remember first discovering Aeyons, I was just surfing online, and I came across this website, and I was attracted for a few reasons. The first being just the simplicity of the graphics, because it seems really easy to use both for me and for students. And I love that the buttons for the lesson types are so flexible. Basically, I can communicate my own specialty, my own style, and my own language. And I'm targeting creative lifelong learners and also young professionals who are getting ready for festivals and big projects like that. And I can really clarify what exactly it is that I'm offering. So I loved that clarity. And then also I know that Yanina is putting on a lot of short videos on social media. So there's this idea of like, we are all in a collective trying to increase our visibility as a group rather than just on our own. And I really enjoy that camaraderie.
The community and the collaborative part of what we're building at Aeyons is incredibly important to us, because we all want to, you know, there are some problems solved by, problems created by what we're going through in COVID, but really what we want to provide long term is this incredible learning community, and it will be for us built long after hopefully we see the end of COVID. This is the community, the basis of learning and taking students on a learning journey through the Aeon, both the platform and our incredible teachers, is what we're building over time. That's our huge journey, and a big word we use all the time in Aeons is access. Access, no matter for a student what level they can afford. We want to provide a mechanism through, you know, subscription packages and things that we're building in the future that can take a student through a learning journey. And obviously a huge part of that is the teachers behind that, and, you know, the master classes, live lessons, all of that. But it's a big, as you know, we've spoken about already, but it's a big thing that we have in our minds and what we're working towards with our incredible partners that we now have on board.
Right, that's wonderful. Let's talk about some of your partners, because you're branching out both in style and in terms of underserved communities.
Yeah, 100%. So we've now signed a deal, which is wonderful for us, with a international investment firm. But it brings much more than that to us. It's a company called Darkia U Ventures, and they have a joint venture with UMG, which is a huge thing, Universal Music Group. So we're now become part of the Darkia ecosystem that gives us the ability to, through investment and so forth, now grow all of the things that I was just talking about. So, you know, it helps us at scale, and that's really what we're trying to, you know, what got them in this was the mission to actually support musicians and grow this community so that we can create a completely unique educational environment, much bigger than what you even see now on Aeyons, you know, the bigger plans. As well, we've now signed a wonderful deal, or a relationship, really, I shouldn't say this is a deal, but a not-for-profit based out of Canada, called the Be Earth Foundation. That is a huge support for what you may have heard already, or musicians may have heard, the landfill Harmonic down in South America. And they're huge. So we're going to be the global partner for them to allow our musicians to be able to teach and support the growth of this incredible not-for-profit from there to around the world. And they're supporting the musicians in a huge way, rather than we don't want to just give away free stuff. What we're doing is talking to philanthropists about being able to actually support, by supporting that foundation, to be able to pay teachers to teach the kids. So suddenly philanthropists have the capability of actually getting a double hit for their money. They know musicians are suffering, and the musicians can provide the services to children in these underprivileged areas. So we're really excited about that, and being the digital platform, you know, that can enable all of that to happen.
And that's so exciting for us as teachers to know that we can reach a wider community through what we're doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's the capability as well for, you know, should teachers wish to, they can donate time into that system. And as I mentioned, philanthropists, you know, we're not just asking that. We want to actually support the teachers. So we want to have that double benefit, really, for philanthropists when they donate to that. So it just helps, you know, as we're all going through in this time, we want to provide upliftment on both sides, and feel, to be involved in something like that, there's a great feeling of doing something that makes a difference as well for all of us in this tricky time.
Yeah. Well, that's such an exciting global vision. Let's zoom in for a second. And I want to ask you your personal thoughts for us as teachers trying to change the format of how we engage with people and trying to recruit online. And it's really challenging to do online recruiting when, we're so used to just being at concerts and being with people. And
100%.
yeah, for me, I know that pacing my work has been the biggest challenge for me, because I can spend like the entire day doing nothing but putting like content online and trying to find people to look at my channels and my website. And the thing is that we're in this for the long haul, and it takes a lot of stamina and persistence. And so it's not an overnight lottery kind of a situation. Tell us some tips for teachers regarding setting up realistic expectations for building the online recruiting process.
Well, look, just a little bit of background to support what you're talking about there about where Aeyons came from, because really, our focus was in quite a different thing when we first started. We were actually setting up to allow the world's best musicians to teach live online into China. So we had a lot of this infrastructure and everything built and forward-facing into that, which is due to release early next year. So when we saw this difficulty that had arisen arose as soon as everything shut down, we then flipped our company to then view the rest of the world, because we saw personally from, I didn't even mention really, but I was a professional French horn player for 30 years and was principal horn for the opera company here in Sydney at the Opera House. So my background is music, and of course on my social media, I suddenly saw the devastation of everything that was happening with all my musician friends, and some of my ex-students are all around, including in the US. So I just saw the devastation, and we wanted to switch our focus as quickly as we could to try and help. And but for that reason, we turned on. We were starting from dead scratch. We had the platform, we had all these capabilities, but for us, our marketing and everything we were looking towards was, in a very different market. Mm-hmm. Now we're going as fast as we can, and we've been, making some dramatic progress in terms of, now these conversations, people have seen us through what we've done. These very large companies have come to us now wanting to do deals and, embark on that process with us. So what we have built is the capability at the moment for every artist to be able to. So when you build one of the pages you see on Aeyons, you have a completely unique URL, and so that allows you to post on Facebook or run your own marketing capabilities through that. But as you point out, there are limitations. Really, most of us, and particularly the orchestral musicians, you're obviously an incredibly entrepreneurial musician. Most orchestral musicians are used to sitting there playing their instrument and having a marketing team from their orchestra manage things. And so haven't had the experience or the background about what to do and the persistence that's necessary to actually get that traction. Yanina helps that and gives and guides people through this process as much as she possibly can, and gives tips, and she's always now starting to build videos to help people understand what's necessary. But you're quite right, there is persistence necessary to actually do this, and so putting something up, and if you get no responses first time, people shouldn't be put off. And you have to think as well, who am I actually, if I'm going out on my Facebook profile, existing where it exists at the moment, who am I talking to? Am I actually talking to all my musician colleagues that are actually probably not my where my market is for if I'm looking for students? Mm-hmm. So we have to think about these things. If I'm just putting it out on Facebook and I'm reaching 500 people, but 450 of them are my colleagues from either around the US or the rest of the world, I'm probably not necessarily going to get a lot of students out of there. So that's the thing we're getting people to think of, whether it's an association then with an instrument sponsor that you may have, and whether they may be able to put information out that will both give their brand some uplift, but at the same time help the artists. There's all sorts of ways that we need to be creative and think of, as well as Aeyons thinking creatively like that, which we're doing now as fast as we can, and with, again, these large partnerships to help get the information out there, both for the company and our individual teachers. So it's a whole, as you pointed out before, it's a whole community process that we need to work on all together.
Right. Yeah, we are on different sides of the world, and yet it's so interesting to me that there are things you say like Facebook, which is exactly the same as here in the US. And it seems that, the dilemma of, well, how much time do you invest in a place like Facebook, which also, it brings people together, then it's also a divisive kind of a thing, because there's a lot of emotions on Facebook these days. But it sounds like Facebook is also such a huge factor, such a huge influencer in Australia as well as in the US.
Absolutely, it's a global monolith, really. It's a huge thing that does it. Used in the right way, it provides opportunity and it provides ability to get information out to a group of people. And in this context, it's really about that. It's about trying to work out if, for you as an individual teacher, it has a use to actually get information out to those people, to the people that you're trying to, particularly if you're looking for students. Mm-hmm. Does it have a use in that context? Yanina actually encourages people to have a very different page, to have a your own personal page, and then to have a page specifically as a business page that you can run this sort of activity out of, so that you don't have that sort of, you have your own privacy over here in terms of your friends, and you have your business page. That's one thing that she thinks is a big part of, for the reason that you're talking about, because there's a whole bunch of different things flying around on Facebook, and it's good to perhaps separate those two. But I think to get the message out, so many musicians, particularly of the level that you work with, in terms of the high-level musicians, there's a whole bunch of things. If we think about different community and groups that where the message can be got out, either through Facebook, through that use, rather than just your own personal page. Because quite often, I know if I put a message out like that, I'm probably all talking to professional musicians rather than students. So we just need to think about the messaging, where it goes to. And I would encourage people, where they have simple things like local music stores or connections with instrument makers who have the ability to get information out. Because boy, what a message for an instrument sponsor or maker to be able to help put out for their artists, that the fact that they're supporting their artists, they're supporting their community, and we're part of it. We're putting and by and large their market or their reach will be going to people who are looking to buy instruments, which are quite often, the majority of them are students.
Mm-hmm. I think what I'm hearing from our conversation right now is that it's not worth starting from scratch, but that we can take the networking that we had been doing and somehow find a way to translate that in a way that people can still follow us and be with us, even though now we're all online. And I think that your website is a great way for us to think about how to be visible collectively, but then still go back to who are our contacts and what is our network. And and creating that transition is really the key.
To people who are looking to buy instruments, which are quite often, the majority of them are students.
Mm-hmm. I think what I'm hearing from our conversation right now is that it's not worth starting from scratch, but that we can take the networking that we had been doing and somehow find a way to translate that in a way that people can still follow us and be with us, even though now we're all online. And
Correct.
that your website is a great way for us to think about how to be visible collectively, but then still go back to who are our contacts and what is our network. And,
Exactly.
and creating that transition is really the key.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's a, it is a very new thing for, we mentioned before, so many people are just not used to having to do this. It is a new thing. And that's why Aeyons is leaping in behind as fast as we can, because and building the partnerships that we're doing that help build the image of Aeyons, the brand, that then draws people to come to the website to have a look and discover what's there in terms of the teachers. And so, yes, we, have this capability for people to market themselves, but we're right in there behind and moving as fast as we can to build the partnerships that build the exposure for everybody that's involved.
Yeah, and for any Chinese speakers out there, I am so excited to hear from you that you also have a Chinese website in the works, in the pipeline.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
it's not something that I use every day, but when I go to China and I teach in Chinese, and I think, well, I don't know when the next time is that I'll be teaching in Chinese. And here we are in the day where, hey, I've got Chinese on my profile page and I am ready to go. And it's just so interesting, the skills that you think about that we've been, collecting. And suddenly, there's just, I don't know, that the uncertainty also brings in opportunities to use skills that had been dormant for a long time. So it's exciting.
Absolutely. It's a big thing, as I mentioned. We've been actually working away at this for 2.5 years. So this has been a very strong focus, and we've been very, very careful to work at this opportunity in China for musicians. We've been very careful making sure we go the right way. We just weren't randomly opening up and trying to get people to use VPNs and things to do it, so we're setting up all the government structures, getting government approvals, doing all the things, and working with international partners like Dakia UMG to build that international flavour of what we're doing. So it's not an Australian company, it's an international company that's providing these incredible services. There will be the ability, so we're just now going through the final testing of our platform being able to have multi-party use at this quality. And the reason that's going to be important is, as well as for non-Chinese speakers, we'll have the capability of having one of those windows available to a translator, so that somebody, as an English speaker, can still conduct a lesson. There's a lot of people in China wanting lessons or wanting to talk to native English speakers as well to practice English, because we know the learning of English is a very big thing inside China. But if it's not an easy thing to do, they can, for a small fee, have a translator as part of that lesson.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you and I are both parents, and we value a great teacher motivating our kids to practice. You have some really exciting ideas about motivation. So can you tell us about the model?
Sure. So this is in the future. This is what's being modelled out and built at the moment, because this is all around, stems from what we were discussing before around access. That for me, that's a huge thing. That's why I left academic life, why I wanted to try and build something in the digital world that actually created access, because I was consistently seeing young students come to audition from rural and regional. Australia is a big place and it's a big empty place. So when people are out in regional areas in Australia, they rarely get access. You're not going to find too many French horn players or oboe players in regional Victoria or regional Australia. We, I guess, have learnt something from our children and how they react to games and so forth, that where they receive points. We want to provide people with points that they can then use to get access either to more things inside the Aeyons world. If they can't afford a masterclass or can't afford a lesson, we can take them on a learning journey by you practice and you work hard and do the things on every day on Aeyons. We'll open up the Aeyons world to you through your dedication. But by the same token, I think I was using the example of my little son to you. Now, my son, even though he's surrounded by music here, he's probably going to be more motivated by other things other than a masterclass. He might be motivated by building up his points to get a nice pair of runners or something like that. I'm just making these things up because the value of learning a musical instrument on the rest of their lives is huge. And it stems back to that thing of access, about wanting to provide the best music instrumental education that we can for children anywhere in the world, no matter what they can afford.
Yeah, and when done in the right way, the competition with your peers in a community does so much to motivate. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And all of those things that we absolutely have in mind of providing competitions and things that kids can enter for, that they may, if we can build partnerships with instrument makers, there can be instruments and all sorts of things as part of that. Another interesting thing that one of our partnerships that I haven't actually mentioned to you before is here in Australia, we have one of the oldest international music accreditation bodies called the Australian Music Examinations Board.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can provide for both from the teacher's point of view and the student's point of view, a curriculum. Should someone wish to, a teacher go, well, what do I teach? Well, we can provide you with a curriculum that you can teach to, and that the students can go through and then do online exams to actually go through different levels, should that be something people wish to do. We've signed an exclusive deal with the Australian Music Examinations Board for China because accreditation is such a huge thing in China. That's where this deal has started.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can allow Chinese students and Chinese teachers to teach to this curriculum and then achieve international fully, hugely recognised accreditation as part of that process that for Chinese kids makes a difference to their ability to get into different schools. So as they go along, to be able to show, the school you're trying to get into that you actually have a piece of international accreditation is quite a big thing. And so that's another piece of the puzzle for us in terms of this process and taking kids on a journey. So they can go through, do their lessons, have lessons with their teacher, maybe get supplementary lessons with an Aeyons artist to help them achieve it, and gradually go through. If they wish to do an exam, they do an exam and they get even more points if they achieve a good result in an exam. So you're just creating a pathway.
Right. That's wonderful. And maybe we'll end on the point that Aeyons is also serving schools. And so there's another branch altogether that's linking the younger students to the advanced students to the schools and beyond.
Absolutely, yeah. We can create an environment. So there's been a number of difficulties in some of the peer-to-peer platforms with securities and so forth. So for Aeyons, we can create an environment for a school, university, youth orchestra, where they can have a completely safe environment for a monthly fee. It's a bit of a different model, but they have a monthly fee for a school to create a learning hub where they can have all their teachers inside. They don't need a payment gateway. They don't need that because the payment's probably happening by the school or the organisation. But we can have a completely safe environment behind where students and teachers have a login and everything's then trackable in that environment. So, with all the, we all have to be obviously having big precautions around child safety and so forth. That this way the teacher and the organisation just knows exactly what's happening in there. There's nothing happening outside where everybody's sort of a bit at risk. Everything's happening in a lovely enclosed environment, and that's something we're obviously super excited about.
Absolutely, and as Aeyons is growing, I can imagine that we can have thematic festivals or things like that brings our teaching faculty and the school community together around different themes, because it's already set up to be an online community. So
That's
so many options for
yeah.
the future.
definitely the ability, even for exactly what you're talking about, the ability for artists themselves to actually stream live content into the community as well, because it's great to provide for musicians the ability, around the teaching and to help in this difficult time around that. But musicians are musicians; we love to perform, and so that is a definite part of this community that we'll be building, is the ability for people to be able to perform for fees into the community as well.
Right. Great. Well, thanks so much for your time. It's been really fun to hear about your insights and your experiences, but also what is in the future for our community.
Thank you so much. I mean, we're really excited and appreciate very much your time and enthusiasm and helping us get the message out. And we're there to help anybody. You can go to the website and fill out, if people want to investigate being a teacher. It's right there on the website. If somebody'd like to apply, and just send an email. We'd love to have people involved.
And it's aeyons.com. Aeyons as in the name.
The story behind this, it's an acronym, and it's for another 8-year overnight success. There's a little bit of a secret.
Yes, so here's to our next 8 years for our second overnight success. Well, take care, and thanks so much for chatting with me today, Geoff.
Thank you. Great pleasure.
I currently offer 3 types of advanced lessons, and the first one is US competition strategies. There is a lot that goes on to the planning and the preparation for a competition. And I love working with people from pre-college through college to professional and adult amateur to make the most out of their experience. And it doesn't necessarily always have to do with whether you win or make a placement in the finals. It is about what you're trying to get out of it and how you can use this as a catalyst for your own growth. And I have seen a lot of my students and the people that have studied or coached with me completely blossom in the moment of a competition, because there is that deadline, because there is this focus. And so this is about how to find that moment of inspiration, regardless of what the judges are thinking that day. The second type is performance and analysis, and this is about applying theory, applying knowledge, applying all the things on the score to create something that makes musical sense, that is your own personal point of view, your own voice that nobody else can copy. So this is getting away from kind of a generic way of playing into really understanding what the ideas are that the composer infused into the piece, and then communicating it in the way that the audience can be captured and captivated by your interpretation. The third type of lesson is called piano artistry. And if you're feeling stagnant, if you are feeling like there is more that you can do, then we are going to work on your performance style. What is it that you can lead with that is your strength when you are performing for people? And what are the things that will take you to the next level, that will transform your confidence, transform your motivation, your passion into something that communicates well? Sometimes we have a lot of great ideas inside, but for it to communicate well out there, you need to fine-tune what it is that is the most communicative way of sharing those ideas so that they reach out there. For more information, please visit my webpage, and I look forward to meeting you. Thank you. I am a Steinway artist, a pianist, a chamber music player, a collaborator, a concert producer. I have judged many international and national competitions. I have been in and won many international and national competitions. I have been a business owner of my own studio for many years, and I do a lot of listening workshops and webinars.